'Tis the season of secession. I mean, Thanksgiving hasn't even happened yet, and already everybody's celebrating Christmas, and I am just so sick of it. And everyone's like, hey, man, we like celebrate. I don't care. Thanksgiving deserves decorations, too, and we get pie. But anyway, it's the season of secession. Rural counties in California and Illinois push to secede from blue states to separate from liberal-run cities after Trump's win. So flipping excited. Yes, the Wall Street Journal also has the story. The rural areas pushing for divorce from Democratic cities. Across Illinois and California, more red counties feel steamrolled by blue-led governments are trying to split off. I wonder if they have a look at this map right here. Apparently, there are 7 counties in Illinois that want to divorce Chicago. Good. Chicago sucks. I mean, in all reality, Chicago's actually kind of fun. It's awesome. And there's good food there. That's the secret of Chicago. When I was growing up, I didn't understand what Chicago was all about. I said, we're the suburbs of the country, right? Of the big cities, Chicago being one of them, they're behind culturally on everything. On LA, you've got the forefront of action sports and just style, culture, art. New York, you've got industry, you've got economics, and Chicago is just 5 years behind. I noticed this when I was growing up with skateboarding. The clothes, the music, everything just felt like we were in the suburbs. So the way it worked, like in Chicago, when you're in the city, you were in the know. And if you were living in the suburbs, you were trying to get to the city. But then I learned something. What does Chicago offer? The best food in the country. That's right. That's why the taste of Chicago is such a big deal. You come out, you spend a ridiculous amount of money on crazy food. Well, now, regardless of what Chicago has to offer, the people who live in the surrounding areas, Republican-controlled areas, don't want to be involved in what Chicago has to offer because it's a corrupt garbage city. Dude, for the first time, there was a unanimous decision from city council because Mayor Johnson wanted to raise the taxes on property owners, and everyone voted unanimously no. Here we go. Phil Gioja lives in a small city 90 miles south of Chicago with its rebounding downtown historic homes and welcoming churches. Yet he has been tempted to join the steady exodus of friends and fellow business owners leaving for lower tax Republican-controlled states like Indiana and Tennessee. If you like where you live, but you don't like Illinois, what do? One answer, help Watseka, divorce Illinois. Look at this. Vote yes on Illinois' separation referendum. Oh, boy. Look at this guy. A burgeoning breakup movement is gaining momentum across Illinois, California, and other states where vast swaths of red rural counties are dominated by a few blue cities. More residents are pushing to break off and form new states, or as a new group called New Illinois State, which has declared itself independent from actual Illinois and last weekend passed the first draft of a new constitution, puts it, leave Illinois without moving. Gioja was one of 73% of voters in predominantly rural Iroquois County who on election day backed the idea of forming a new state with every Illinois county except Cook. I'm for it. That's more than 40% of the state's population. The non-binding resolution also passed in 6 other counties, bringing the total to 33 of Illinois' 102 counties. Whoa! Holy crap. There's a lot of people in Chicago, and I think that they make a lot of decisions that's affecting people downstate. Said Gioja doesn't expect a new Illinois soon. It's just sending a message that, hey, you know, there's people that would like to be part of the conversation and often aren't. Oh, this is the reality of Illinois. It is overwhelmingly a conservative rural state. I'm not kidding. Illinois has got nothing for you. Chicago, if you're in the city, and then nothing else. And it's a bummer. You go to Springfield, you go to Rockford, Peoria, you go to these areas, and they're conservative. I mean, not like in the deep cities. There's like Champaign, Urbana, and Normal and stuff. They're college towns, and they'll be very woke. But what ends up happening is all of these people are living under the boot of a increasingly unhinged far-left psychopathy. And so they're saying, why are we subjected to this? This trend, my friends, will persist because we're seeing it in Oregon. We're seeing it in Colorado, California, and now Illinois. Look at this. New Illinois, 7.5 million, and Chicago, 5.2. They say the urban-rural divide is a long-time fissure in American life, one that President-elect Trump played up on the campaign trail, blah, blah, blah. I'm so flipping excited, said Paul Preston, founder of New California State, which has declared all the counties outside of L.A., the Bay Area, and Sacramento as independent and named him governor pro temp. Is it tempore or is it pro temp? Contemporary quests to redraw the map of the U.S. have bubbled up before, with Puerto Rico and D.C. each long seeking to become a 51st state. Well, we can add more senators. The Democrats want to make Puerto Rico a state, but that would basically give Democrats 2 more senators and a congressional seat, 3 more electoral votes. And there's other talks of territories joining D.C., for instance, would become its own state, which makes no sense because D.C. is federal and it's meant to be independently federal. So that's nonsense. But they want to give themselves 2 more senators. Well, I tell you what, Oregon, Jefferson, Greater Oregon, Greater Idaho, whatever you want to do, fine. Because then we're going to have many more right-leaning senators. They say, as for the wannabe breakaway counties, a divorce could get messy. Becoming new states would require consent of the existing legislatures, extremely unlikely in most blue states, as well as Congress, according to Article 4, Section 3 of the Constitution. That has only happened a handful of times, including the formation of Kentucky with the consent of Virginia and the founding of Maine, which was once part of Massachusetts. Yet when West Virginia sought statehood during the Civil War, Congress approved even without the consent of Virginia's legislature in Richmond, which had voted to secede. And that was, it's kind of a wild story. So basically, West Virginia is part of Virginia. Civil War starts. Virginia calls troops to go fight. All the voting age men are like, let's go fight. Yeah. And then the people who are left were like, we secede. Then when the fighting age men came back and were like, no, we are Virginia. They were like, nah, too late. Yeah, for real. Isn't that crazy? The Braves were away. Preston thinks that could be an opening for New California. He said he plans to petition Congress for statehood based on the argument that the current California government is a one-party communist state, and technically they have seceded from the union already. Woo! New California's got 22 million people, and all those people, they vote majority conservative. Look at that. Well, actually, not enough, apparently. New California is still largely Democrat, though it is close. As of late to being just over 50%. But hey, you can carve out Bakersfield or something. We can get those numbers good. Theoretically, appealing to Congress is a strategy that could work, though it's hardly likely. I'm so sick of this. There should be no question in this country. If a body of people, say Eastern Oregon, votes for it, it's done. We are not a country where a minority gets to determine that we live under a boot. This country was founded on saying enough to tyranny. And this is where I say the founding fathers probably should have created another Bill of Rights. Any voting body within this country may vote to form a government within this federal jurisdiction. Period. Now, the concern there is it would result in 7,000 states and a federalized government, and then you'd basically be a nation of counties instead of a nation of states. But I think the problem is, I don't know how, let's pause right here. There should be a mechanism in the Constitution where a people can vote to say, sure, the federal government will be the end all be all, but we can be a state if we want. They could have perhaps had a threshold argument. If your body exceeds a certain percentage of the population of this country, you have a right to create your own state. Should this be a unified territory and blah, blah, blah. Instead, what they basically said is your oppressors have to agree with you. Well, why would they ever? Why would Portland agree to give up its slaves? This is always the problem. The people of Eastern Oregon live under the boot of far left psychopaths, and they have to provide for them. I say no to this. And don't get me wrong. Still within the federal government, we have to pay taxes to this corrupt machine. It's ridiculous how much taxes you pay. It's crazy, isn't it? A 20-something% of all the money you make goes to the federal government. That's crazy. Whatever. I'm not opposed to taxation. I just think it's a lot. And you have state taxes. We should have the right to simply say, I and my region vote to secede from your authority. Give me a reason why no. If it's going to be a bunch of counties within a federalized system, fine. It's crazy to me that you can have half of a state or more vote on these things, and the minority gets to say, you can't leave. Why? If we want to form our own new jurisdiction, we will. And they'll say, well, because the Senate. If you create a new state, what are we going to have? We have 5,000 counties all trying to be independent, 10,000 senators. That wouldn't work. So I get it. I get it. But I just don't understand. Perhaps there's no way to form that system. I don't understand how you can tell the majority of Illinois that they have to live under the boot of Chicago that would ban their guns. It's like, dude, if I live in rural Illinois and we got bear or whatever, deer, or whatever I want to deal with, Or how about this? I have a right to keep and bear arms. Doesn't matter for what reason. This is the issue with, in West Virginia, this is a big issue. Because federally, they want to make it so you can't privately sell guns. So there's a dude who lives in rural West Virginia in the mountains. No joke, they live there. And he wants to give his buddy a gun. He says, my buddy, he lives 3-4 miles away. I'm going to I'm going to drive my off-road. They drive off-road vehicles here. Dude, I'm not kidding. People don't get it. You go into West Virginia and there's areas where there's no roads. You're driving through forest dirt road to get to your house. And it's like they've got solar panels and there's limited power and limited connectivity. People live in the mountains. People live in rural areas. And you say, my buddy needs some weapons. My brother, he lives 5-10 miles away. I'm going to drive up there in my all-terrain vehicle. They go there and the Democrats are like, nah, you got to drive to the city. So the city's 4 hours away. Doesn't matter. You got to drive to the city to do the proper transfer. That makes no sense for people who live in the middle of nowhere who aren't a threat to anybody. That's the problem we're facing right now. I don't have a solution for you, but I'm not surprised people want to form their own states. I say I'm for it. Let's roll, baby. We'll see what happens with this one. This is a big story I'll probably talk about later tonight. Smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know. Become a member over at timcast.com to support our work. More segments to come. We'll see you all shortly.